Welcome back to Sometimes Love Isn't Enough. I am your host, Angie Grandt, and if you've been hanging out with me for a bit, you may have noticed that I am no longer using my intro. I really want to make sure that I'm respecting your time. And quite honestly, when I listen to podcasts, I often skip through the intro. And so then I was like, why am I expecting my listeners to either listen to the same intro over and over again or to have to skip through it? So anyways, that's what happened there. It was a conscious decision to respect your time, honestly, because if you're listening, chances are you're a parent and you're busy and you just want to get to the meat of it. You want to know how to shift things in your home with your kiddo. So, today, what I want to talk about is something that I hear time and time and time again. It's this idea that why can't our kids' behaviors change? As parents, we we're often in this position where we're like trying so hard to fix their behaviors, to change our kids' behaviors, and then we're frustrated when it doesn't change. We're frustrated when we feel like we're doing all the right things and our kids' behavior won't change. And then we revert back to our same old cycle, our same old pattern of losing our cool with our kids. And so I want to pose this I don't know, question to you, this idea, this concept to you of I really want you to reflect on when you're expecting your kids' behaviors to change, are you yourself doing the work to change yours? I know for myself, when when things were so ugly in my house, I I was desperately trying to change my kids' behaviors. But when the behavior would pop up again, I would revert back to my old pattern of the way that I was responding or reacting to behaviors, and I'd get stuck in the loop again. And so while I was perhaps maybe trying different strategies, when push came to shove, when behaviors were popping up again, I was reverting back to my old way of being, my old way of reacting to him. Yet in my mind, I was trying to convince myself that his behaviors needed to change first before mine could. I had this recurring thought that I would stop losing my cool if he would just behave better, which is essentially me saying, I'm the adult and I'm going to keep behaving the way that I want to behave for as long as I need to. You need to go first. You, the child, need to change your behavior first before I'm going to change mine. But it can't be that way for so many reasons. First, we're the parents. We're the adults who have this drive to have a different result in our home. If we want to see something different, if we want a different outcome, we have to go first. We can't reasonably expect the child in the situation, even when that child might look like an adult, they might talk like an adult, they might sass us back like an adult, they might even be bigger than us. They're still the child in this situation. And I say that very lovingly because I have been in your shoes where I I insisted that my son's behaviors needed to change before mine could. But it can't work that way. It also can't work that way because, well, when we are part of that loop, our kids don't necessarily have the experience. Maybe they don't have a parent coach. They don't have they don't know what to do different. We might be telling them what to do different or showing them what to do different. But in order for them to be different, to feel different, to have different thoughts, it requires them to have a different sense of who they are. It requires them to have a different belief about what they're capable of. And those things come from us as the parents. When we're trying to superficially change the behaviors, change what's showing on the outside, but we're not doing the work to change that underlying cause on the inside with our kids, well, we're going to keep seeing the same behaviors. We might see a bit of a dip, right? So as we try a new behavior strategy with our kids, sometimes we see a bit of a dip. Things might get better for a little bit, but then their sense of self-worth, their sense of lovability resurfaces when they realize that I'm behaving better, but I'm still getting the same reaction from my parents or from school or from other kids. When our kids see that what they're doing hasn't really changed their foundation of who they see themselves as, well, the behaviors are going to resurface because we didn't address the underlying cause of what was going on there in the first place. I also know that when we are expecting the kids to go before us, we're putting this conditional love on our kids. We're putting this expectation that, well, I'll love you until you act out again. I'll love you until you don't meet my expectations. I'll love you until you've pushed my buttons again. And I say that like I trust that you love your kids. I know that I love my kids, but I know that the way that I presented my love to them very much changed based on their behaviors. Our kids pick up on that. Our kids know that about us. So when we're expecting our kids' behaviors to change, when we ourselves haven't done the work to change how we're showing up for them, we're placing such an unrealistic expectation on our kids. When we want our kids to embody being a totally different person than they are right now, but we want to be the same old person that we've been being all along, well, our kids see through that. They see that, yeah, mom and dad want me to change, but they're not changing. They're not doing the work. They're not putting in the effort. So, what do we do about this? Well, I look at it through two really key lenses. The first one being this idea of our expectations. We all have a set of expectations for the people in our life. We have expectations about how our kids should behave, how our significant other should behave. We have expectations about the coffee barista at our favorite coffee shop. We have expectations about how others in our life should behave. And well, two things come from that. One, they don't know what those expectations are most of the time. Of course, we in our closest family might share our expectations, but we have so many unwritten expectations of everybody in our life that we don't share with them. They don't know what it is. We might not even be able to clearly articulate what it is, but it's our expectation nonetheless. So they don't know what it is. And nobody else was put on this planet to fulfill our expectations. We were all uniquely and perfectly designed to be on this planet to love and connect and to fulfill our purpose. And yes, loving and connecting others, we might have expectations about what that looks like, but those other people in our life didn't get that same expectation manual that you've got so deeply etched in your mind about how others should behave. When I think about our kids with challenging behaviors or our kids who push us away as parents, I know that as a parent, I had this unwritten expectation that when I loved my kids, they would love me back. And when that didn't happen, when my son wasn't able to show me back that he loved me the way that I loved him, and my expectation was broken, that became really hard for me to continue to show up for him the way that I knew that I needed to, the way that I wanted to, but it became incredibly hard to do because my expectation for reciprocal love wasn't met. But it's not like he was put on this planet to reciprocate love to me. My son was put on this planet in the exact same way that you were, and I was, and my daughter was, and your kids were. We're all put on this planet to have this ability to give and receive love. But when we've experienced traumas that impact our sense of lovability or have had bad experiences that have led us to a place of not being able to accept or share love in a way that is open and freely giving. Well, that can be hard for somebody who has an expectation manual that my kids are supposed to love me, my spouse is supposed to love me, my kids are supposed to, or my spouse is supposed to notice what I need and when I need it, and is supposed to drop everything they're doing and do it for me, right? We don't say these things out loud. We might not even, like I said, have that thought clearly articulated. But when those in our life don't meet our needs, meet our expectations, we respond with frustration. We respond with feeling like they did something to us, even though they're just being them, living out their purpose. They're just being them, trying to survive. They're just being them, trying to figure out where their right place is in the world. So when I think about this concept of our kids changing their behavior when we haven't done the work, that first step really is exploring what your expectation is of your kids. Is your expectation realistic? Is it something that if you asked a room full of 10 people what their expectation is, where would your expectation of your kids fall on that line? Is it much higher than everybody else's, much lower than everybody else's? Is it right in the middle? And I'm not saying that we're supposed to compare ourselves to other people, but to have this increased awareness about perhaps our frustration isn't about the other person at all. Perhaps our frustration is about our expectation of how they're supposed to behave. But that's not their job. Their job isn't to behave in a way that makes us happy. So that first step is really digging into what our expectations are, really understanding where our frustration comes from, because the frustration does not come from their behavior. It comes from your expectation. I know this to be true because I work with families all day, every day. That has been my career for a couple of decades now. So I go into all kinds of families' homes. I do in-home therapy and have done that through, I've worn a couple of different hats as I've done that. So I get to see the dynamics of kids, parents, siblings, extended family. I get to see it all. And I've been in hundreds, if not thousands of homes at this point, watching families interact. And my expectation of the kids in the family, my expectation of the adults in the family is very different than the people who live there. For example, something that happens pretty much weekly in my job, I work by day working with toddlers and their parents, and it happens on a very regular basis that a toddler will pick up a toy and they'll chuck it at me, at their sibling, at their parents, at the dog, at whoever. And my expectation about the way that toddlers behave, I know to be different than their parents because my expectation is one, I'm usually pretty well prepared for that because I expect it. It's part of what toddlers do. Maybe perhaps if they're feeling like they need more attention or they're trying to figure out how to engage in a conversation when the adults are talking, or they don't have a different way to initiate play. So I expect it. I anticipate it. And when a toddler chucks something at me or at somebody else, I respond in a way that I'm not frustrated with them, not at all, not even a little bit. But I watch time and time again that many parents will reprimand their child, like, you can't throw things, they'll be more reactive to, I'm sorry, or you can't throw things, or you need to use nice hands. And I'm always thinking about my expectation of that I don't assume that the child was trying to hurt me or trying to hurt somebody else. My expectation is that it's a toddler being a toddler, trying to engage, trying to interact, trying to initiate. And my expectation is that it's part of their repertoire. It's part of how they communicate, where I can see in the reactions of the parents that their expectation is that my child shouldn't hit other people. My child shouldn't throw toys at the dog. My child shouldn't. And I believe that to be true based on their reactions. The same thing is true when I have been in homes where perhaps the adolescent is yelling and swearing at the parent and calling them obscene names. I don't have any expectation about any type of reciprocal relationship. I don't have any expectations about how the child should behave, but the parents do. And the parents expect that the child is respectful. The parents expect that the child doesn't use profanity when they're communicating. But it's not the behavior that's causing the frustration, because I can be in that situation and feel no frustration, but the same behavior is happening. It's our expectation of that other person that leads to our frustration. So I really think that first key step to understanding and making progress with our kids' behaviors is first having a better understanding of our expectations. Because when we can understand our expectations, we can shift our approach a little bit. We can shift the way that we're responding to our kids in a way that lets them know that they haven't failed to meet our expectations. Because then the next piece, the really critical piece to changing our kids' behaviors, is that we must go first. If we continue to expect that our kids are going to change their behaviors and then we can feel happy and then we can feel peaceful and then we can feel calm and then we can connect with them, if we're waiting for our kids to change their behaviors, well, you're going to wait a long time, if not forever. And what happens to your relationship in that meantime? While you're placing this high expectation on them changing their behaviors, yet you yourself haven't figured out how to do the work. And again, I'm not saying that to be harsh or insulting in any way, because I know that this work is hard. I know that it's hard to change who we're being. It's hard to shed the way that we learned how to parent. And it's especially hard if parenting one of our kids works really well using the tools in our tool belt. Because when we're parenting that one child that we're really struggling to connect with, we're really struggling with behaviors, we keep trying to employ tools that worked for other kids. We keep trying to employ tools of, this is how I was parented, and it's not working. And we're throwing our hands up saying, well, I would stop reacting if my kid would just start behaving. Well, we must go first. We have to be willing to do the work to change our thoughts about our kids. We have to be willing to do the work to really work on how we're feeling about what's happening in our home. Because if we keep stepping up to those interactions with our child where we're feeling frustrated, we're feeling resentful, we're feeling angry that we're in this loop again, well, let's break that cycle. Let's stop getting stuck in that loop, but it takes you taking a step out of that loop and not getting stuck in there with your kids again. I know that this is seems so much easier said than done, but the magic to doing this, the magic to stepping in to a version of you who isn't stuck in that cycle, the magic really lies in your human design. Because when you understand your unique energetic needs and you start taking action to meet your needs, you put yourself in a much better place to show up for your kids the way that you want to, instead of getting stuck back in that loop of reacting to them again. And when you are in a place where your energetic needs are met, then you can show your child that you're doing the work to take care of you so that you're not reacting anymore and you're responding, so that you're not holding these high expectations of your kiddo anymore, because you understand that they have unique needs too. You have unique needs, but so do your kids. When we can really understand ourselves first and work on stepping into a higher energy for ourselves, it puts us in such a better place to respond to what our kids need. So, if you don't know how to make that magic happen, if you don't know, like you've been listening and you've been trying to do the things that we talk about here, and you just can't seem to tip the scale, you can't seem to get things to change, I invite you to book a free connection clarity call. I promise you, there's no pressure there. I don't want clients on my caseload that don't want to work with me. But I do know that I have these amazing tools that can shift the way that you connect with your kiddo. But it isn't just about taking this smattering of tools that I share about here in the podcast. It isn't just about that. It's about fine tuning the tools that you use based on your human design, based on your mistaken motivations, based on your unmet energy needs, so that you can step up for your kids. That's what we do in the connection clarity call. I do a bit of an analysis and figure out exactly where that first domino is that needs to come down to help creating strong connections in your family. So I would love to chat with you further to help you find that solution for your family. And also, oh, I don't want to forget. So I just launched a mini private podcast that I'd love for you to take a listen to that as well. I have pulled together some of the concepts that we've worked through in here in a streamlined way. So the episodes are pretty short. I think the longest might be 27 minutes. So they're a little bit shorter than these episodes. And I walk through a very specific process. So I'd love for you to check that out. I'd love for you to take a listen, share some feedback. And thank you so much for listening. I'm so grateful that you're here learning with me, hanging out with me. And I can't wait to connect with you. Talk soon.